Globally, adult literacy sits at a commendable 86.3%. Over the past 2 decades, youth school enrollment has steadily climbed, filling classrooms around the world. But a child sitting at a desk does not mean that child is actually learning to read. To measure this gap between attendance and comprehension, the World Bank introduced a diagnostic metric known as learning poverty. This tracks the share of 10-year-olds who cannot read and understand a simple, age-appropriate story. This equation combines schooling deprivation, children out of school, with learning deprivation, students in school but unable to read by age 10. It reveals a severe spike. In low- and middle-income countries, 70% of 10-year-olds fall into this category. The numbers are steepest in regions that faced prolonged school closures. In South Asia, the learning poverty rate jumped from 60% to 78% following the pandemic. A generation lacking foundational reading skills will struggle to acquire advanced training later in life. Economists project this specific learning deficit will cost the current group of students $21 trillion in lost potential lifetime earnings. That massive economic loss begins in the physical environment of the school itself. Globally, 20% of primary schools lack basic electricity. Many more operate without essential wash facilities, an acronym for water, sanitation, and hygiene. When classrooms are overcrowded, poorly ventilated, and lack functional toilets, both student attendance and teacher retention drop sharply. In Mogadishu, Somalia, decades of conflict have severely damaged the educational infrastructure. Schools operate in substandard buildings with insufficient lighting and scarce resources, putting a hard cap on the caliber of instruction possible. Cognitive development requires a stable environment. An education system cannot effectively teach reading or math until it secures the basic physical survival and sanitation needs of its students. Beyond physical walls, educational systems are constrained by social barriers. In South Asia, historical gender disparities have heavily influenced who gets to sit in those classrooms. This graph illustrates a negative correlation between female education and population growth. As female literacy rises, the total fertility rate moves strictly downward. In South Asia, when female literacy climbed to 57%, the fertility rate dropped from 6.0 in 1960 down to 2.6. The data shows that women who complete secondary education tend to marry later in life. They space their pregnancies more effectively and actively seek better healthcare outcomes for their children. Educating girls acts as a primary economic engine. It directly reduces maternal mortality and provides families with the tools to break intergenerational cycles of poverty. Even as developing nations work to solve foundational reading, the global economy is raising the required baseline. Literacy now demands digital fluency. Labor market projections show that by 2030, 80% of all jobs in Southeast Asia will require basic digital literacy and ICT skills. ICT stands for Information and Communications Technology, covering everything from computer hardware to internet networking. To prepare for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, has issued a mandate to digitally transform educational systems across its member states. High-performing economies in the region are already integrating artificial intelligence into their classrooms. Meanwhile, marginalized youth in rural populations are often stuck practicing on obsolete hardware or lack internet access entirely. This digital divide is also deeply gendered. In low-income Asia-Pacific countries, women are 20% less likely to own a smartphone than men. Achieving basic reading comprehension loses its economic value if students are simultaneously pushed into a permanent digital underclass. Modern literacy operates as a 3-tiered ecosystem. It requires foundational reading to process information, scientific understanding to evaluate the physical world, and digital fluency to participate in the global economy. Fixing one piece of this system does not work. Nations must commit to a whole-of-society strategy, investing in physical school infrastructure while continuously updating the curriculum to match technological advancements. If a student cannot read by age 10, that early deficit accumulates. It locks them out of acquiring the advanced skills required by future labor markets. Today, true literacy separates the nations equipped to pioneer the future from those structurally guaranteed to be left behind.